chocolate sprinkles, chocolate sauce and strawberry topping. And then I will have a vanilla soft serve, hot fudge and peanut butter sauce, with Reese's Pieces and cups. Whipped cream too.
Okay.